Hey guys, welcome to Mikey Yourself. For today's video, we're going to address an issue that's kind of plagued the Milwaukee 8s for Harley Davidson, and that is the amount of heat that radiates off this engine. So as you know, the Milwaukee 8 and most of Harley's motors are air cooled, and because of that, they're going to be hot, right? With the design of the bike, there are things where it kind of introduces a lack of airflow specifically to the rear piston, or the rear head I should say. And the problem with that is it gets real hot. So if you have one of the newer bikes, and I forget what year they started doing this, but there's a setting, it's called ETIMS, and what that does is when you're sitting at a light or something like that and you've got a lot of heat, the motorcycle will actually shut its rear piston or cylinder down. That way it allows it to cool off a bit, right? So if you're there, you it feels like you get the chop in the Milwaukee 8 for free. And then you've got to blip your throttle in order to kind of bring that sucker back to life, because there will be a little bit of lag when you try to take off from the line. So there are a couple of tips and tricks that you can use to try to address that heat problem. And what I'm being told is the people who experience it the worst are your passengers, because this rear foot peg sits right next to your motor, and this is kind of all that heat is just like swirling around, right? So there are three things you can do. We're going to address or talk about two of them today on this video, and then there's going to be a part two to address the third one. So let's talk about the ones for this video, and that is removing the catalytic converter from your header pipes. Now I want to say this, one, this is for entertainment purposes alone. The work you do on your bike is up to you, so it's your responsibility. Also, if you have a warranty on your bike, you need to be cautious around that stuff, because any of the modifications you do to it, Harley is very quick to remove those warranties, so just be aware of that, okay? I unfortunately, or fortunately, I have aftermarket header pipes which do not have a catalytic converter in them. But if you did have one, there are several videos on how to remove the catalytic converter from your header pipes. I recommend watching those videos. There's two methods that are used. One is to cut a hole or a window on the side of your header pipe, remove the catalytic converter, and then you've got to weld it back up. So if you have that ability, those skills, have at it. If you don't, the other way is to remove your slip-on, take a long auger bit, about a 17-inch bit, and you'll drill it out, and you're going to have to work that stuff out, right? So to get it out cleanly, you're going to want to use not only the auger bit, you're going to probably want to use some kind of scraper or something that you can, use to pull back on, and then probably clean it up a little bit with maybe a brass wheel on an extension, and just get it up there and kind of clean out those pipes. I've seen some other videos where folks use honing tools, so the tool used to hone a cylinder, and then you could shop vac it out. Videos on people just leaving the slip-on off, crank up the motor and let the motor just blow all that stuff out. So however you want to work your way around that, you can do that. So that is one of the major sources of producing that heat. The one we're going to address on this bike today is utilizing the mid-frame deflectors to help address the wind flow issue. And so let's take a look at what these mid-frame deflectors look like. Alright, so this is one of the mid-frame deflectors, and you can get these all over the internet. JP Cycles and Advan Black, everybody sells these things, and the price you're going to experience is going to be all over the place. So to put things in perspective, these are some cheapy ones I got off of eBay for 20 bucks. They came in either matte black, velvet black, or you can get them in there was another color and I can't remember at the moment, so forgive me on that. But very, very cheap, low cost. The quality of the plastic is fine. I don't see any issues there. What I will tell you is the paint job on this area here it's got no issues. However, kind of where this thing mounts, there's some bubbling of the paint there. And you can see it here as well too. Just kind of got a little slappy on the inside, but all in all, it looks fine. So when you order the kit for the 20 bucks, you get both left and right. And then you also get hardware to mount this stuff up. And where these go is right up in here. And that's supposed to help deflect the heat from your leg. Now, the problem is, when you put them both on, you're kind of creating like just a turbulent area. So this area, the air as you're riding, gets scooped up by this deflector, and you've got the other one on the other side. It's going to just keep it kind of spooling around in here. So you're really not fixing the issue. Now, what we're going to do is we're only going to use one of these. Okay, we're gonna do this kind of like a hood scoop would do for a muscle car, right? We're gonna put one side on. I'm gonna use this side here. The right side is apparently the more or the hotter side of the bike, so we're gonna mount that here, and this is gonna act like a scoop. So as I'm riding through the air, the deflector is gonna catch that, and it's gonna allow the airflow to come around the rear cylinder and process out the other side of the bike. So I'm not going to put that left one on. Now I know what you guys are thinking. You're going to have one on and one off, and that's going to look dumb. You know what? You're not almost ever looking at the entire bike, both sides at the same time. So somebody may or may not notice it, but for the outcome that I'm looking for, I really don't care, right? Like I'm trying to achieve something very specific, so I'm going to use this design as best as I can. You know, the reality is I don't have an air cleaner on both sides of the engine, so it's okay if your bike looks different on two different sides. And again, especially if you're trying to achieve something like keep the passenger's leg cool, right? So, like I said, it comes with the hardware. We're going to take a look at where this thing mounts up. It has some clicks here. From what I understand, you may have to redirect the line on the side, but we'll see. The other concern I have is my gauge, my air gauge that I mounted here, where I ran my tube through. I may have to redirect that through another channel or whatever if it's in the way of mounting this deflector. So let's take the seat off and mount this thing up. Alright, so if you've ever bought anything off of eBay, especially stuff that gets manufactured and shipped over from China, then you know you'll get a lot of parts, but you generally either don't get any instructions or very poorly written instructions, right? So in this particular case, I got 0 instructions on how to install this. Now, it's pretty straightforward in that you hold that thing up there to the motor and you see what holes line up and you go from there. One thing to note is as you look at this, the holes, so there's this hole up here and you got some other holes. These are threaded. This lower hole is not threaded. So what that means is you're going to have to use one of these deals, and I'm not sure what they call these. It's not a nut plate, but as you tighten it down, it kind of squishes itself like a rivet does, and it becomes a threaded hole for you then at that point. So that's how you do that. You get multiple bolts, and again, this is all for both sides. So you got 2 of those little like nut plate deals. You get a clamp, I think on the passenger side, or the passenger, but on your left side of the bike, I'm thinking this is a car, that you might have to relocate one of the tubes. If you watch the videos on YouTube, there's a ton of them of guys installing these specifically. You can see their kind of how-tos and get an idea of what needs to be addressed. Again, the point of this video is not to show you how to install these deflectors, but how we're addressing the heat produced by the Milwaukee 8. Okay, so I've got that deflector on, it's mounted, and it wasn't too hard to do. Again, if you want to see a how-to on that, there's several videos. Just type in mid-frame deflectors into YouTube and you'll see those guys do the installations. But it was 2 bolts, you know. You did have to relocate one of the spark plug wires. There is a little like hook on the deflector itself that you connect it to, because if you don't, there's like a little plastic tab that gets in the way, so you have to pull that out and then you're able to put your deflector in properly. But again, the whole goal of this is as air comes into the front of the bike, it gets caught up by that deflector and will process the hot air out the left side of the bike here. Now, I don't have any kind of temperature readings to gauge this by. It's going to be based on experience. So I will have a review Wednesday on this after I've gotten to ride this a little bit more, because the reality is, if I took a gauge and said, oh yeah, it dipped down 10 degrees, but it still felt the same to me, then so what? Like, the fact that it dropped 10 degrees on a gauge doesn't mean jack if you don't feel it, right? So to me, that's what's more important, is that the feel of it. So in this case, we're gonna ride it and do it for a couple of days until we really feel the difference. Again, this is part one of a two-part series, so we've got one more modification to do to try to address this heat issue. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you like my content, become a subscriber. And if you don't want to miss out on that next video, I produced every Sunday and Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can hit the notification bell. It'll give you a chime to let you know that new video is just dropped. If you don't want to hear those notifications, don't hit the bell, but you got to become a subscriber. And until the next video, I hope to see you in the win.